So what we see here is we see this area where there has been a top to this tree and it was girdled. Something removed the bark all the way around. And then we see behind this fairly robust top that has grown. And so this is damage that occurred to this tree more than 20 years ago. And the point right here with the bark missing that's approximately 3 to 4 inches in diameter, approximately 10 centimeters, this is the area where porcupines like to feed. And so this is a great example of how trees get multiple tops through the foraging activities of porcupine. And sometime, as I said, more than 20 years ago, a porcupine climbed this tree approximately 15 feet off the ground and had a meal of cambium, ate all the way around, and the limbs of the tree were unimpacted below the girdle point, and so they turned skyward, and in this particular instance, one limb became dominant and has become a single top. In many cases, and I've taken many of you to places in forest ecology where we've seen fork-top trees where they have two equal tops, and that is often the result of porcupine foraging. So from a forest mortality standpoint, porcupines usually don't kill a lot of trees, but they can cause misshapen trunks, and that does lead to volume loss if timber production is a primary goal. So the story, you can look at this tree right here in front of us, this tiny little ponderosa that's 1, 2, 3, 4, approximately 4, maybe 5 years old. So that tree germinated after this big disturbance, the fire that occurred here. This tree, with the porcupine damage in it, has now a huge fire scar on its base that you can see is growing over. And this tree germinated here, survived ground fires here, grew up in a stand of white fir during the era of fire suppression. This tree is probably 50 to 60 years old. It got eaten by a porcupine when it was probably, 30 years old or so. That porcupine caused it to grow a new top. The Cache Mountain fire came in the early 2000s, I think 2003, 2006, somewhere in there. Killed almost every tree around it, and yet this tree and its neighbor down the hill survived. And it did kill the cambium almost halfway around the trunk. And yet here we see all this callus tissue that's regrowing around there. So we could use our dendrochronology skills to actually cut a core through there to this dead wood, and then we could determine exactly when that fire occurred, since my memory's not serving me perfectly here. And so I just think that the stories of these individual trees, what they have survived and persevered through, is just absolutely fascinating. So we'll come back and visit this tree 100 years from now.